Hey everybody. So the Godzilla video did a lot better than I thought it was going to. And I said at the beginning of that review that this is not a review channel. I mostly focus on travel or whatever. This channel is sort of eclectic in that way. But I noticed that a lot of people ended up subscribing after watching the Godzilla video. So in order to try and marry the audience that came in from that video and my previous audience of travel enthusiasts, whatever you want to say, Nepal enthusiasts, I thought I would try to make the next video a bit of a soft landing for the people that subscribed for the Godzilla video, and less of a rug pull content-wise. So I'm going to recommend a film that sort of has to do with travel, nature, whatever. It's a documentary, and hopefully the Godzilla enjoyers will stick around because they enjoy film. The film is Fire of Love. We watched this movie last year. There were a couple things I really enjoyed about the movie. There's one big thing that I didn't necessarily click with. But let's go over the good first. The first good thing that this movie does is it has really interesting characters to work with. So the subject of the documentary, I guess a little overview of the documentary, is it follows the lives of Katya and Maurice Kraft. These were two individuals that formed a married couple who studied volcanoes. And that's the very basic premise of the documentary. It just follows these people. Now, the first thing that this documentary does really well is, like I said, it has really cool individuals to work around. Why were they so interested in volcanoes? What about their personality made them fixate on such a subject? Because as we know, especially in the internet age, just because you are intensely interested in something does not necessarily make you an interesting person. But these people were. They were interested in something very, very specific, and why they were interested in that was also very captivating. The documentary is already off on a good foot because it has such interesting characters to work around. The second thing that this documentary, maybe the most noteworthy thing about this documentary, is the use of archival footage captured mostly by Katya Kraft during their expeditions to these volcanoes. This is beautiful, crisp 16mm film of dormant volcanoes, active volcanoes, magma flows, eruptions. It's gorgeous. It is beautiful. And I think the film is probably worth it for that alone. But they were able to, first of all, I guess, comb through these most likely hundreds of hours of footage that they had taken and utilize it in the film. So the subjects are interesting. The filmmaking is also interesting, what they had to work with. Let's get to the bad, though. What the film is attempting to do is create a parallel between the couple's profession, the Kraft's profession, and their love for each other. So their love is like this magma, this volcano. It's a superheated love. And that is an interesting parallel to make. And I think if you were going to do a documentary like this, that's probably the way to go. That they loved volcanoes like they loved each other, and that all of that love fed into each other, into itself, or whatever. That's fine. That's a fine narrative to have. The problem that the film runs into is actually a result of one of the strengths that I mentioned, because The film is using all of this archival footage. But the archival footage, although beautiful, is mainly just B-roll of volcanoes. And so it comes down to the editor needing to utilize that footage in a way that works with the vision of the director and the larger narrative, which is not an easy task for an editor. Taking what is essentially educational geological B-roll and weaving it into the film to create a narrative. The problem with the main narrative, and I guess what the main problem I'm getting to, is that the film is trying to say that this romance is volcanic in nature. There's a lot of love, but within the B-roll that we see, that love between Maurice and Katya does not seem very evident. They seem kind of like aliens who are just fascinated with volcanoes and less fascinated with each other necessarily. So there's a disconnect that happens while you're watching it, because you're supposed to be believing in this love between them and volcanoes, but the love between them is not shown, and I think it's a result of the type of footage that is being used. I think it would be really cool to see a dramatized version of these individuals' story. They look like they were plucked right out of a Wes Anderson movie. They've got the Steve Zissou red cap, sort of like this, except red. They're wearing kind of weird, visually interesting volcano heat suits that look like they would be right at home in a Wes Anderson type movie. So I would like to see sort of a dramatized version of that. Somebody, if there was somebody out there that could take the story of these two, come in and write a narrative that could be dramatized, but then also utilize the 16mm footage that they shot, that would be a really cool film. It would take a lot of work and talent to be able to weave all those things in together, but I think it would be super cool to see something like that. Anyway, obviously that main narrative issue did not give me sufficient pause to not recommend it, because I'm making this video. So I would recommend checking out Fire of Love. It came out in 2022, but I think it was a little bit under the radar. It was recommended to us by a friend, but I would highly recommend it. But anyway, if you like the video, leave a like, and I'll see you in the next one.